Hey guys, Andy here. One of the things I like about having a YouTube channel is I can use it to sort of fact check, basically, or check. I have a terrible memory. If you said to me, what was the first smartwatch you owned, I probably couldn't have told you, but I just looked back through my channel and I saw that it was the Samsung Gear Live, which I bought on the 7th of July 2014. So almost exactly 4.5 years ago. That was quite a square, it was quite a nice looking watch, I think. It was actually, I thought it was a pretty good watch. A few months later I got the Moto 360. I think I maybe then moved to LG G Watch R. I'm not sure if I had a different one. And then now my current watch is Huawei W1, I think it's called. I've had that for 2 years, and it was about a year old when I bought it. So it's quite an old watch these days, and actually I like it. I like the design of it. It's a good looking little watch. It's not too bulky. It's generally quite stylish. The only real reason I thought I need to upgrade is because I'm having problems with it not charging when I put it onto the magnetic charging pad. It's quite annoying. You set off to work, or you get to work rather, and you look at your watch and it's got 17% battery and it's going to die in the next hour or two. Really quite annoying. I mean, in the end I bought a second pad that'll keep it work, but still I just thought, well, it's time to upgrade. When I bought my Huawei Mate 20 Pro, I got a free Huawei Watch GT, which was actually a really nice watch. And as I look back, I think maybe that is the watch I should be. Watch the review video of that. For me, some big deal breakers. One, it was not an always on display, and two, the lack of interaction with notifications and things. It very clearly wasn't very well blended into Android. So then I've been looking what other options there were, and in the sales recently was the TicWatch Pro, as seen here. And kind of the selling point, you may have just seen it there on this, is that it does have an always on display, but that always on display can be the good old-fashioned LCD when it's not needed, therefore saving battery. And then if we move it about a bit, maybe it will trigger it again, and then when it feels movement, well, there we go, it switches over onto the sort of regular AMOLED, or yeah, I think it's AMOLED screen that you perhaps recognize from other watches. So that's kind of its selling point. How well does it work? How functional is the watch? How comfortable? I'm going to tell you about it now. So if we talk about the design first, it is quite a solid watch. It's quite a big watch. It's slightly bulky, I would even say. It is a little uncomfortable if I wear it with my gym gloves, for example. It does have a very nice strap. This is not the original strap. This one I bought off Amazon. It does have a nice original strap though. Kind of the outer is leather, which gives it a very nice look, but the inner is kind of a rubber, which gives it a very good sort of comfort. But it just wasn't big enough for me. Even on the outer hole, it was still just a little bit tight on my wrist. So I went for this. I'll link the strap in the video description if you're interested, because it's quite good. It comes with 2 different lengths for this piece. So there's another one shorter, about that for long, but this one I can sort of do it up on the second to last hole, and it's very comfortable. So we've got 2 buttons you'll notice straight away. One is the power button, which we can use to get apps or go back to the home screen. The other one is programmable to whatever you want. So I've got it to bring up the heart rate monitoring. We'll see if it can detect my heart rate with it just resting there. So yeah, you can change that to be whatever you want it to be, really. If you wanted to bring up, I don't even know, well, whatever app there is installed on the phone. So there we go. Once it's got going, it will keep monitoring. Oh, maybe I've just got a very stable heart rate at the moment. There we go. So I quite like that. The buttons, they feel quite good. They're a little bit firm in some ways, so there have been times where I think I've pressed the power button, but I've not. You do have to give it, especially when it's strapped onto your wrist, you give it a little push and you think you've got to really press it in. So generally the design I quite like. It is a little bit big and bulky. In some ways I preferred the Huawei W1 because it was a smaller and neater looking device. The hardware itself, it's got a Qualcomm Snapdragon Wear 2100 chipset. It's got 512 megabytes of RAM. It's got 4 gig of onboard storage. It's got NFC, so if you want to do payments through the watch, I haven't tried that to be fair, but if you want to, that's an option. It's got GPS for if you go cycling or jogging or things like that. Obviously it's got a heart rate monitor we've just seen, and it does have 2 screens. We're going to come to that in a second. The final thing is it's IP68 certified, so you would be fine in theory going swimming with this. No problems at all. So the screen is a 1.39, or the main screen I should say, I suppose. 1.39 inch AMOLED 400 by 400. It does have an ambient light sensor, so it can change depending your surroundings. The second screen is an FSTN, so that's Film Super Twisted Pneumatic Display, whatever that means. So it's not as visible as a regular LED, but generally viewable even in low light. So I didn't really have any issues, even when it was quite dark. You normally can get an angle where you can see the time. It will wake when you get a notification. It's also quite responsive just for you moving your wrist. So again, I never had any problems with it not being able to see what I needed to see. So we're going to talk about the software. You'll need two apps, the Android Wear app, Wear OS, sorry, and Mobthoe. However you pronounce that. The app doesn't seem particularly reliable. And at this point I'm going to talk about activity tracking as well, because that's kind of what the software is all about, really. So we can see the TicWatch Pro 0068, and I tap on that and we can then go into, so I don't quite know, you have to have this advert. So the app is, can we go back? Yeah, so we do have, and I've got to be honest, I didn't look into routines and things. Sorry, you'll have to look at someone else's video for all of that, because it's just not something that I use. You have a shop, or it's going to load when it eventually loads. It's basically just a bunch of adverts, and there's the actual account page where we can check the thermos up to date and stuff like that. We can check how we integrate Google Assistant. I'm going to come back to the devices. I'm going to go into the watch. I'm going to go into the health center. Now, yesterday, anytime I went to the health center, it would be there for a second. It would boot me back to the page before. It does now at least stay in there. And I can scroll back to yesterday where I was a bit more active, went to the gym and such. So we can see down the bottom there the different activities. In fact, I didn't show you yet. So when we wake the phone up and we swipe from right to left is where we get into the tracking element, or the fitness element. If I tap the button, we're going into starting an activity. Let's go to the very top. So we start off with an outdoor run as an option, an outdoor walk. You really need the difference. An indoor run, cycling, and freestyle. So for example, I was cycling indoors, so I just went freestyle. I was then weightlifting, I just went freestyle. So you've got a run and a walk, much the same really, and then indoor run, and then you've got cycling. So those are the options. I did use cycling. As I rode home on my motorbike, I set it up to as if I was cycling, because I figured, to be honest, which is the best way, easiest way for me to check how that would work. While you're tracking, you do get information about how long you've been going, and you also have the persistent heart rate, which is one of the sort of the key things for me. Now, normally I'm exercising, I've got my earbuds in and they check my heart rate for me, but actually it's much easier just to glance at your watch and see what your heart rate is and check that basically that you're pushing yourself enough, really. So I did like the even when it's on the battery saver screen, it would have the constant heart rate would be showing on that. So I did really like that, actually, as far as activity tracking. Let's go back into the app now. So the three different things. The first one was I was just cycling, stationary. You can see my heart rate heading up. Did 25 minutes on the bike. Then I went and I was lifting weights. So you see a bit more of an erratic heart rate. Oh yeah, so this is where I tested. As it's recording, you can press kind of a button down the bottom to kind of pause and then start again, and it calls them sets. It could just easily be laps, I suppose, so you'd get individual lap times for things. So generally, yeah, that I thought was okay. And then we've got the 10 minutes cycling, where I rode my bike home, which strangely I had a very high heart rate at some point, so I'm not quite sure what caused that. But we get bits of information there, so you can see the speed. Clearly, look, I left it going when I got home because I basically forgot. We can see the route and the speeds. I think it's worth pointing out as well, actually, that it all syncs through Google Fit. So for example, we go to the weightlifting. It was tracking where I was for some reason, but there's the heart rate has gone into Google Fit. If we go back to my cycle home, got the heart rate, we've got the speed as well, and of course the graph showing where I've been. So I think actually that's really quite handy. That's something that could encourage me to wear the watch while I train, because I do like everything going through Google Fit, like one sort of base for all my activity. So yeah, I mean, that all looks pretty good. I think there's probably better fitness trackers out there, but I think generally that's mostly what you would need. It does seem a little bit unreliable though, so I mentioned the kind of it kept kicking me back. When I'd initially done the exercises and then I opened the app, it wouldn't sync, and I think possibly because I had my Bluetooth earbuds connected, because when I tried it later without them connected, all of a sudden it synced fine. Even though when it synced it wasn't showing me information, I basically rebooted the watch and the phone and then it was there. So it seems a bit unreliable. We've got there, it's all the information is there, it just took a little bit of jiggery pokery to get it showing properly. So yeah, the software and obviously the rest of the software is basically Android, it's Wear OS. So you get all the usual stuff that you would expect, notifications, etc, etc, toggles at the top. And I would say generally it's very smooth. We've got OKG integration should you want that. There are lots of different, if I can remember how to get to the different watch faces, there we go. I mean, it's the usual Wear OS type situation. You can have it so, there was one day in fact, so I did have, and we'll get on to, well, we'll move on to battery now I suppose. It's a 415 milliamp hour Li-ion battery. There's no wireless charging, it just does sit into the dock. Smart mode, where it's the combination of the two different screens, you're going to get 2 to 5 days life. Now I don't think I've charged this since Saturday, and we're Tuesday now, so it's done almost 3 days. And if we wake it up and have a look at the battery, I've still got 18, if it focuses, I've still got 18%. That's not too bad after 3 days. I could probably, well, I'd last to the morning I suppose. But there was one day where, I don't know quite why, but it hadn't charged while it was in the dock, which is a bit annoying because that's the whole reason I was buying a new watch, for the sort of reliability. And I was at work and I looked and it's at 9% battery. Brilliant. So it automatically kicked into the battery saving mode, where it basically just would stay on the LCD screen. And actually I got through a whole shift with 9%. It's quite impressive. I'm not sure what the listed, so it says in essential mode, which is what that would be, the battery saving one, it says you can go to 30 days, which is pretty impressive. But at the same time, it's more of just a regular digital watch then at that point, which is not good. I mean, if you've got a smartwatch, you want it to be smart. But what I like is you've got that option to do that. So when I've only got 9%, I was able to survive the day with at least being able to check what time it was. You can still, I think I could still press the button to wake it to check things, but it wouldn't wake up on notifications like it will in essential mode. It is worth noting the charging cable to the dock is rather short, and I could only basically just kind of squeeze my watch onto the edge of the table, even though the plug is just down on the floor by it. So yeah, could really have done with another sort of 30 centimeters or so on the cable. What's the conclusion? I do like the watch. It's not the nicest of designs. I would have rathered a sort of a smaller and more subtle design, but actually the build quality really very good. The price I haven't mentioned. I think I paid $160 for this in the offer. You're normally looking around $200 to $230. So a lot of people compare it to the Samsung Gear watch, which is around £300. So for £100 less, yeah, I think you're getting a pretty solid device. Especially if you're particularly after Wear OS, which generally I am. I mean, I'm not overly bothered, but I prefer the sort of standard, I suppose, rather to someone's own OS. But what makes this different? Well, I mean, clearly it's that dual screen. If we put that aside for a moment, it's not massively different to most of the watches that you can buy. It's very similar design. It's a little bulky, but it looks quite nice. So it is really about that second screen. And actually, I think that is quite a big deal. So I went away at Christmas for 3 days. I didn't bother taking my watch charger with me. And I think that's, I don't know, that shouldn't be a big issue. But actually delving down behind, unplugging, packing it away, taking it with me, then putting it all back together when I get home, it's just a little bit of annoyance. And if I don't have to do that, then that's, you know, that's quite good. And although I think I turned it off overnight each night because I didn't need it at all then, but then I had sort of 3 days, and at the end of 3 days I think I still had about 60% battery, if not 50, somewhere around there. So definitely, you know, easily made it without any sort of battery anxiety. So part of me says go back to the Huawei W1 just because of the smaller watch face, and in some ways I prefer that smaller design. But other parts of me say no, I do really like this. It's a nice watch. I like how they've done with the second screen. It works really well. You don't really lose any functionality. Oh, you can see there, for us Brits, that date is backwards. Look, you see that? 0115. The Americans are the only one that do it that way, as far as I'm aware. And I still think it's backwards. But anyway, never mind. So where was it? Yeah, so I do like it. I think it will be my main watch now going forwards, but not that it'll have a particularly tight grip. If there was another much nicer looking watch that came along, there's a good chance I'd be thinking, oh, maybe I'll give that a go. So good watch, could be better. I think for me, just a bit smaller, a bit more subtle would be what I'd be after. But it is a good watch with good battery life, pretty good features. There you go. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. But for now, my name's Andy. I'll catch you all again soon. Well done, and thank you for making it to the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, you might want to click the little fellow that should hopefully appear about here to subscribe. You may also want to check out some of my other videos, which are going to appear somewhere there. Also come and have a look at my website, androidandy.uk. There is also a forum. Come and say hello on the forum if you've got any questions about things, or request me to review things, or anything else. Just come and have a chat on the forum.